Hey guys, hope you guys had a great week of spring break. And we're coming back with our trapezoid notes, which is assignment 82. And this is our last quadrilateral that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to move into our next unit of transformations. So I want you to take a look at the top. It says trapezoid is not a parallelogram. So that's really important today for us to remember. It has at least one pair of parallel sides, but it does not have two. And so it does not have to have two pairs of parallel sides, which means that it is not a parallelogram. So the next part says, what do you know about the angles of a trapezoid? So what you want to notice when you're looking at angles inside a trapezoid is angles on the same leg are supplementary. So that means that D and A are going to add up to 180, and then that also means that B and C are going to add up to 180. So angles on the same leg are supplementary. We're just going to abbreviate that so that we fit it on the line here, which means they add to 180. Now, in isosceles trapezoid, we have the non-parallel sides are congruent. So it's just like if you had an isosceles triangle and you cut the head off. So now I would have an isosceles trapezoid right here. So what do we know about the angles of an isosceles trapezoid? Just like an isosceles triangle, the base angles are congruent. And what do we know about the side lengths and diagonals of an isosceles trapezoid? We know that the legs are congruent. Which means AD and BC are the same. Because remember, it's just like if I had an isosceles triangle and I cut the head off. So these two sides are still the same, which means that these angles are going to be equal, D and C. We also know that the diagonals are congruent. And remember, that's only when we're talking about an isosceles trapezoid, not a regular trapezoid. So I'm just going to draw in my diagonals, and I'm going to mark that they're congruent. It says ABCD is an isosceles trapezoid. AB, this is supposed to say parallel, is parallel to DC, and AD is congruent to BC. Draw your own picture. So I know that AD is congruent to BC. And I know that AB is parallel to DC. So it says ADC equals 110, and they want me to find the other three angles. So remember, my base angles are always going to be congruent here. So here are my base angles. So I know that those two angles have to be the same. Also, I know that D and A have to add up to 180. So that means that A is going to be 180 minus 110, which is 70. And I know that B has to be the same as A, so that's also going to be 70. And then up here for angle C, I know that C and B have to add up to 180. So that's C is gonna be 180 minus 70, which gives me 110. So BCD is gonna be 110. ABC is gonna be 70, and DAB is gonna be 70. And this is all the same shape. So I'm just gonna redraw my shape. For all of these. AD equals 2y minus 5, and BC equals y plus 3. Find the value of y. I know those two sides are congruent, so I'm setting those equal to each other. And I'm solving for y. So I got 8 for my y there. And remember, this symbol here means congruent, or the same. Same picture I'm going to redraw again for this problem. It says angle DAB is 4x minus 5, and ABC is 3x plus 15. Find the measure of each angle of the trapezoid. So I need to find A, B, C, and D. I know that my base angles here are congruent, so I have 4x minus 5 equals 3x plus 15, and I'm solving for x. So I know x equals 20, and then I'm going to plug 20 in here for x, which you can do in your calculator. So I know A and B have to both be 75. And then I know these angles up here are going to be equal, and I know that they have to add to 180 with the angle on the leg. So these two angles together, A and D, have to add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180 minus 75 to get angle D, which is 105. And then that's going to be the same thing over here for angle C. For number 4, I have angle ADC. And then I have DAB, 8x minus 20. Find the measure of each angle. So again, first thing I'm going to have to do is solve for x. I know that D and A have to add up to 180. So I have 4x plus 20 plus 8x minus 20 equals 180, and I'm going to solve for x. So that's my like terms. Gives me 12x, and then plus 20 minus 20 cancels out. And then I'm going to divide by 12, which you can do in your calculator. 180 divided by 12 gives me 15, is my x. So now I'm going to take that x and I'm going to plug it in for angle D. So I have 4 times 15 plus 20. Plug it in my calculator, I get 80 for angle D. And I know D and C are equal, so those are both 80. And then I can find A and B one of two ways. I can plug in 15 for x, or I can do 180 and subtract 80 to get my missing angle A and B. I'm going to do 180 minus 80 and get 100 for those other two angles. So that's today's lesson, your final shape, your quadrilateral, which is trapezoid. And tonight's homework is going to be the trapezoid assignment 82. And you're going to do numbers, just the odds on here. So 1, 3, and 5.